Overtime, sponsored by the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.
It's our Tuesday night ritual. Welcome into Fox8 Overtime with Sean Vazan. I'm Juan Kincaid, and with both Chris Hagan and Garland Gillen sunbathing somewhere right about now. We went into the bullpen, pulled out this arm. Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com, the Times Picayune. You got 3 innings?
Oh, easily.
2.5?
Easily. I don't want to think about them sunbathing either, by the way.
No one does. Let's get you right to the big board. We got a lot to get to tonight. Here's what's on the board tonight. Saints sizing up the competition. Rams, of course, Chiefs right there as well. Rock Chalk, Mad Hatter. Coach O versus Jimbo. Wave, Colonels, Tulane, and Nicholls in win or go home mode. That is the way things sit right now on this show. A lot to get to, as I mentioned as well. But first, we're going to start with these Saints sizing up the competition. They have a 9-game win streak right now. They're blowing teams out. They're scoring almost 40 points a game, it seems like. The Rams and Chiefs are doing the same thing. So sizing up the competition, is the race for the Super Bowl a 3-horse race, or is there a dark horse somewhere, or is it these are the 3 teams to beat?
Well, look, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will be in that mix by the end of the year. They're getting things together on defense, and I think those are the 4 clear best teams. I think New England,
yeah,
might be a little bit down this year, so I like those other 4, but I don't see anybody. I don't think there's a lot of parity this year. I think it's a big 3 or 4.
And I'll tell you another team that might cause some problems depending on where they play, the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears, I think, could be an issue into January, especially if they get some home games in the postseason. But I like the way this is shaping up for the Saints. I think it's the best case scenario. They've won 9 in a row. They've got a lot of confidence, but having the Rams so close keeps them focused, forces them to kind of keep their edge. They can't get too soft. They got to remain focused and ready to go, because the Rams are nipping at their heels. They have that tiebreaker over them, but any slip up, and all of a sudden the 1 seed can go to LA. And I just think right now the path to the Super Bowl, we all know it. The clearest path is through the Superdome. That's what they want, and that's what they have to hold on to.
I think what's funny, over the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks, we kept saying, well, at least they got Carolina on their heels, kind of pushing them a little bit in the division. But now there's a 3-game lead in the division. There's no one pushing them there. So it's interesting that they're now looking across the table at the Rams and saying, you know, we got to keep ourselves up with those guys because they keep on winning football games. I think the Rams are the one team that could come into the Superdome and beat the Saints, only because you're going to have to score a lot of points in that dome to win, and the Rams are built to score a lot of points. You saw that with the Chiefs last night. I think that's the one threat this team has in the NFC.
And you saw last night their defense makes just enough big plays to kind of keep them in it and keep them relevant. And you just don't know. The Saints haven't turned the ball over much this year at all. But still, their defense, they're a lot like the Saints. The Saints defense makes a lot of timely plays in certain situations, and all of a sudden it's a blowout. You know, the defense is just good enough to make some big plays, and that offense is really grinding, really flowing. The Rams and the Saints obviously have that same formula. So buckle up. And the Saints are enjoying every minute of it. I wrote about it in my blog. I mean, this team is so New Orleans. It's not even funny. They dance. They dance on the sideline. They choreograph in the end zone. They play the music a lot. What good would it be, 9-1 B, if it were a bunch of boring stiffs? I mean, this is a fun team to be around. Could you imagine the San Antonio, Tim Duncan-led Spurs at 9-1 right now with the Saints? It just wouldn't work here in New Orleans. I think it's a great combination.
No, this is a very likable team, too, and I think that plays into it. A lot of likable characters on this team, a lot of good guys, if you will. And I don't think it matters which place they finish first or second this year.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think as long as they get one of the top 2 seeds, they get at least 1 home game in the Dome, no one is going to beat the Saints in the Superdome. It's not going to happen. I think that is all they need to do, because then they can go to LA and play a team that really doesn't have a significant home field advantage. If you're going to have to play on the road in the NFC Championship game, that's the team you want to play, the Los Angeles Rams.
I was going to say, you know, we're looking at this football team right now, and the Saints may end up having a better road record this year if the things keep playing the way they are than they will have had at home. Only 1 loss against Tampa, obviously, to start the season. But I look at this football team, and they seem to be just different than 2009 and 2011, 13. You got such balance on the offense. And I'll be honest with you, I think Sean Payton is having more fun calling plays this year than he ever has, with all the great teams he's had in the past, in part because of Taysom Hill gives him so much variety in the offense. But it's like he's playing a Madden game right now with this offense, and everything is working because they're in such a good rhythm. It obviously starts with Drew Brees, but there's
who's playing the lights out.
Who's playing? Is he having his best year? I mean, is this? I mean, numbers right there. He's almost
absolutely no doubt about it. But he also is having fun because he's got a great offensive line, and they can run it or they can pass it. So he has no fear in calling any play in his playbook, and that's why he can go for it on 4th down. How many times they're now 10 for 11, I believe, or 10 for 12 on the year on 4th down. he feels confident because that line is so dominant, and that's where it all starts,
that's it.
along with Breeze.
To me, I was asked about this earlier today on a radio show, or they're more like 9 or more like 11. I said they're more like 11 in my opinion, but they have their own characteristics, and I think this is the best offensive line Sean Payton has ever had.
Yeah.
This is the best blocking group, not just with O-line, but the tight ends, the wide receivers, that the Saints have really ever had. And when you have that elite of a group up front, it allows you to do so much more, and that's why they've been so precise. Jeff, I know you had the stat a couple weeks ago. Was it 61% of the drives they've
Correct.
scored on? It's got to be pretty close to that still after 1 week of play.
Unprecedented.
Yeah, I mean, it's unprecedented, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that when was the last time you ever felt Drew Brees get hit or even in any kind of danger of getting sacked?
A season low 9 sacks for the Saints right now, which is ridiculous, which is the reason why he only has 1 interception this season, because he hasn't had guys in his face, hasn't had the pressure. I mean, everything's coming together perfectly for this team right now. Hey, we're going to have much more Saints talk coming up and coming your way at this time tomorrow night. A Thanksgiving Eve edition of Game Plan previewing the Falcons coming to town, and the NFC East is on the line Thursday afternoon as Washington tries to bounce back from Alex Smith's injury and maintain their lead over the Cowboys. Coming up here on Fox 8, we've got a lot to talk about in the college football world, where LSU is off the hook and that Les Miles is on the clock at Kansas. What are the expectations and how much will he lean on Louisiana roots for recruiting? Plus, 2 of the men considered for the job of replacing the Mad Hatters square off this weekend. We'll preview Coach O versus Jimbo on Overtime next.
Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.
All right, welcome back in. We're going to shift gears now to talk about a little college football, but there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Leslie Miles. Beginning with the Mad Hatter, taking over at Kansas. A tough place to win. Few have won there in the last decade. Good move by Les?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. No, I don't like it at all. I think
Really?
it's a graveyard position. There's a reason Les Miles has been on the street for so long. I think he was desperate for a job, and this is a job you take when you're desperate. No one has won there, like you said. I just don't see how. In the Big 12, it's so competitive. It's become a very good conference. I don't know how he wins. I don't know what he brings to the table, unless, I should say a caveat, unless he's willing to change his ways and try to get innovative on offense, and we just haven't seen that out of Les Miles.
This is such an interesting debate, because if you're Les Miles and in your head and in your heart you want another shot, well, the bigger offers aren't coming. This is probably the best you're going to do. So if I'm him, why not give it a shot? It's a Power 5 school, though one of the worst Power 5 jobs maybe in college football. And then we had this debate about success. Well, what is success? He's not winning a national championship there, but can he be a consistent 6-game winner and flirt with bowl appearance? They would love that in Kansas. That's a basketball school. So I don't think success is insurmountable. It's not the best job out there. In fact, it's one of the worst Power 5 jobs, but he wasn't going to get the Colorado job, most likely. I mean, the bigger name jobs were out. I mean, so I think this was the best he was going to get. So if you're Les and then you got a little more juice left, then perhaps this is not a bad opportunity. I'm curious, though, when this finally does end and he walks away from coaching, does he eventually slip into Lee Corso's chair on ESPN Game? Because that's always been a debate about him as well.
Good personality. 8-5, 2008, the last time Kansas had a winning record. Since 2009, they've been 20-88. The last 3 years, 3-33. But I'm going to tell you right now, he's got a 5-year contract there. 2 names to remember, Les Miles and Tony Hall, former Warren Easton head coach, now their recruiting guy there.
Right.
Between Les Miles and Tony Hall, they can almost own the metro area here. Les has a very good standing in families. We know what he did at LSU as far as recruiting. I think because he can recruit well here, Puka Williams is already there. He is a dominant figure in that offense there. We know what he did last week. I think if you can get a couple more players like him, you start changing the culture there a little bit. You got a guy that all he did when he was at LSU was win football games. To Tiger fans, he didn't win enough, which is crazy, almost 10 wins a year. But he wins football games. He knows how to talk to families. He knows how to get best players at the school. And granted, he was recruiting for LSU. But you can go to a kid's house now and say, hey, Sean, you can come play in the Big 12 next year and start right away. A kid's going to jump on that. A good player.
A lot of
not
people
right
have said that.
A lot of kids will jump on that. I'm telling you, I think
I've
they will.
heard legendary stories about Les. When he gets in front of the mom, a recruit's mother, he wins.
Absolutely.
He takes over. So
Now, can he coach him up?
Can he coach him up? We'll see. I've heard legendary stories about Les being able to basically win over, which is a very important decision maker in a recruit's family. That's the recruit's mother. We'll see what happens. But
3 years.
Well, look, a 3-star Louisiana prospect, LSU may not be able to take. A school like Kansas may be appealing to that prospect, so we'll see.
I think it says a lot. Just what you mentioned earlier, the fact that Colorado wasn't going to be interested in Les Miles. Why not? I mean, the guy won a national title. He's coached at a high level in the SEC. Word on the street in coaching circles is Les Miles is kind of kryptonite because of the style of offense he uses in today's age, especially in the Big 12, where they're wide open. I just don't see it. I don't think it's a good fit at all.
I'm going to say in 3 years he's got him in a bowl game, and by 5 years he'll be coaching someplace else because he's proven he can win at a perennial loser.
He's almost 70 years old at that point.
Well, you know, man's got to earn a living. All right, coming up, LSU's going for its 8th straight win over Texas A&M, but it's the first time Ed Orgeron and Jimbo Fisher will meet as head coaches of their respective teams. We'll preview the matchup next.
Overtime, sponsored by the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.
If LSU can beat Texas A&M on Saturday, the Tigers will get their 10th win of the season and become a more attractive option for one of the New Year's 6 bowl games. Perhaps an even bigger deal for LSU, though. Their current head coach, Ed Orgeron, beating the guy that LSU previously wanted, Jimbo Fisher, who now coaches the Aggies. And Coach O played coy. Played it off this week, but is he playing coy? Does this game really matter to him because of the head-to-head matchup, head coach-wise?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't think so at this point. I mean, I think he's established himself. I think he feels very confident in his ability to lead this team into the future. And, you know, he knows Jimbo Fisher well from the SEC. I don't think there's an issue.
Does it matter to the fans because they wanted Jimbo?
Yeah, maybe. But I think really the main storyline, the main thing inside that building has got to be 10 wins. Getting that 10th win to improve, just to finish the season 10-2. You've already surpassed any reasonable expectation of the season. We had a debate in the Fox 8 Sports office. I think I had the highest record at 8-4. That was my prediction. They've already surpassed that. But still, to have such a good season and kind of limp to the finish line with a loss to Texas A&M, to me, would put a damper on all the good feelings. To me, you got to finish this thing out strong. In college football, there's just something to be said about a 10-win season. 10-2 is so much different than 9-3. I think they need to go all in for this game, not for the Jimbo factor, but for the fact they need to get back to 10 wins.
Program's got momentum right now. I think they would lose some momentum, just like you said, Sean. And I think this is a dangerous game. I mean, they've kind of owned Texas A&M since they've come into the SEC. They played well down there, but College Station is one of the most unique, hostile environments in college football. I think it's got a little bit of a trap game written over it, especially the way LSU's been playing offensively. It's kind of got me concerned.
But I think Vegas helped them out, making them 2-point dogs.
Yes.
Now you got a little chip. Now they're not respecting you. Look at the record disparity. I know College Station is a tough place to play, but LSU's been the better team all season long. So perhaps that can help. At the end of the day, they'll go out and execute and win this game. That's my biggest concern is the offense of this football team. What's going to show up? What showed up against Georgia and, of course, Rice last weekend, or what showed up against Alabama and some of the other teams where they really just struggled early on to get points on the board to put games away. That's my biggest concern with LSU. And I think you said they have momentum going into next year. I think you're right, but I still think they have some major fixes. They need to get the offensive line better somehow with some additional players. And their skill positions, players, the running backs, the receivers are not as good as they've been made out to be based on recruiting, in my opinion. Well, look, John Emery's going to take care of that. The Destrehan running back, I mean, he's a big-time talent. He'll be playing, maybe starting right away. Instantly. But they've got to get better on the offensive line. There's no doubt about it. And I feel like maybe this team might have peaked a little early. That Georgia game certainly was a highlight of the season. Then you have the big showdown with Alabama. You lay an egg. Sometimes it's hard to get going again after a big rivalry game like that. All right. I'm sorry, go ahead. Different year, same situation for Tulane. Winning, they're in a bowl game situation. Lost to SMU last year, missing a bowl game by 1 yard. How important for the program is it they get it right this weekend against Navy? Come on. I jumped off the bandwagon head first. I'm like, this is done. I was so just upset after the Wake Forest loss. I'm like, another season of moral victories uptown where we're happy to be close. But then they got on a roll. Justin McMillan got on a roll. He came crashing back down to earth last week, I thought. But, hey, it's a very winnable game, against Navy. You lost to them last year. Was it 23-21, something like that? So this is your chance. I'm on. This is the hump you got to get over. Come on, prove it to us.
Would the loss be critical for this program?
Well, it wouldn't be critical. Willie Fritz is established. I mean, Troy Dannon's got his back. But it's a definite setback, and we talked about momentum with LSU. It would hurt the momentum of this program. And they made the statement before the season that that was their top goal, to get to a bowl game. And Willie Fritz didn't shy away from that, which I actually liked. I liked hearing that from him. He set the bar. Now they've got it. It's attainable. And I think you're right, Sean. We all had written this team off, and they go down and have the biggest win in Fritz's tenure down at South Florida. And everything's on the line for them. I don't see how they lose this game if they do. I think it's a setback major for this program.
I think it does say a lot about Willie Fritz and his ability to get a team to rally when they were down and out and they win 3 of the next 4 games to get themselves back in this position. I think he's done a fantastic job. But I think if they don't make the bowl game this year, man, I mean, it's already tough to get people into Yeoman Stadium to come support that football team in that beautiful brand new stadium. They got to get a winning program there and start giving these kids who are mostly, a lot of them not even from here, a reason to go out to see football games again. Down in Thibodaux, Nicholls State will host its 2nd straight FCS playoff game, taking on San Diego in the first round. 2 questions. First, Chase Forcade, Southland Player of the Year. Is he a prospect? We know he has a good lineage.
Look, we know Drew Brees and Russell Wilson have kind of opened things up for the shorter quarterback. I think he's going to get in somebody's camp. He's a winner. Somebody's going to want to bring him in and test him out and see how he plays. But I think it's going to be difficult for him to be on an NFL regular season roster next year. I think he's a practice squad guy.
Yeah, I don't know if he gets drafted. But I'll say this, from where he was at Rummel to where he is now as a passer, he has grown by leaps and bounds. And he is... Every coach needs that one recruit that turns the tide for the program. Chase was it for Nicholls State, from where they were before he got there to where they are now. That was Tim Rebo's biggest recruit. But I do think maybe one more good year of tape. Maybe he flirts with an undrafted free agent, gets in a camp, maybe fights to make a roster. We'll see. It may not be the end of the line for Chase down in Thibodaux. I mean, may have some more after that.
How about head coach Tim Rebo, who is his 3rd year, I believe, and he's had back-to-back fantastic years down there. Nothing against Nicholls State, but it's a tough place to win. It's a tough place to recruit, but he's done both of those and won games there. And, I mean, how long do they hold on to him?
I think people are going to come after him. I don't think there's any doubt. He's a program builder. That's a difficult place, like you said, to win. They hadn't won for a while before he got down there. That's the kind of model right now we're seeing a lot of athletic directors follow in college football. They're not afraid to go down to lower levels because they see whatever formula you had at a lower level is going to work at the mid-levels. I would think somebody's going to take a look at him this offseason.
Yeah, some of the names, Sully Lesh, Evan Veron from Riverside, Bussy. I mean, all these guys we've been reading highlights of over the last year. I mean, he basically settled into this metro area and got so many very good football players, and they've all kind of panned out at this level here. It's going to be hard to hold on to him, but, I mean, as long as he's there, just enjoy him while you got him.
That's right. It's a good problem to have for Nicholls State. Here's the college football schedule for Saturday. Tulane gets the party started at 11 a.m. hosting Navy, so we'll know early about them. Nicholls and San Diego meet at 3 o'clock, and Thibodaux follows shortly thereafter by the Bayou Classic between Southern and Grambling, 45th edition. That will decide the SWAC's West Division champion. And the Tigers and Aggies from College Station on Saturday night. Coming up, everyone gets a final say, from a high school football tale gone awry to the joy of Saints' success and the delusion of defense in the NFL. Stay with us.
Overtime, sponsored by the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.
Our Fox 8 Big 8 poll remains virtually intact after 2 rounds of the playoffs. Curtis, Carr, John Ehret, and Destrehan all took care of business last Friday. Curtis will look to punch the ticket to the Dome this week against Evangel, while the public schools are heading into the quarterfinals. On page 2, Lakeshore is still rolling. Terrebonne will be out for revenge against Destrehan. Slidell was at 7, but they got bounced by East Ascension, so Rummel slides up. Easton breaks back in. Sean, the Eagles, they've been hot. What do you think of their chances in Class 4A?
I think they have a very good chance in 4A. I think they have a chance to run the table, and it's Carr, Easton, a lot of purple and gold in the Dome. I think it's a chance.
That's going to be a packed game.
That
a lot of fun. Time now for everyone's favorite part of the show, our final say. Leading us off, Sean Vazan.
It's me.
That's
all right, I'll go with it. Just wanted to give a shout out to one of my favorite high school football players, Andrew Robinson, who ended his prep career last week. We first did his highlights when he was a sophomore at Vanderbilt Catholic. Immediately, I said, who is this guy? That day I created a nickname for him, Andy Football. What happened to him this season, though, was an absolute disgrace. But I was glad to see him at least get a chance to play in 3 games for Hahnville, and many of us here thought his return would be the spark Hahnville needed to make a deep playoff run. It didn't happen. Zachary is a great team, but it would have been interesting to know how different this Tiger team would have been had Robinson been allowed to play the entire season. I know this, the Tigers would have definitely been higher than a 22 seed, but what's done is done, no turning back now. But wherever the next stop is for Andrew, I hope this experience will make him even better at the next level.
Hear, 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 hear. Jeffrey?
Yes, it's happening again, New Orleans. You can sense it around the city. You can feel it in the Superdome on game days. Another special Saints season is upon us. No other city shares a symbiotic relationship with its football team quite like New Orleans does with the Saints. And right now, the city can't get enough of this fun-loving, high-scoring, record-setting team. The Saints' 9-1 start is the talk of the town. TV ratings are off the charts, and home games are the hottest ticket on the street. New Orleans has always been a city of excess, and right now, this city is binging on the New Orleans Saints. My advice to you, drink responsibly and in moderation.
What?
The season is only half over, but it's going to last well into January and maybe, just maybe, all the way to the first weekend of February and Super Bowl 53. Enjoy. These seasons don't happen very often.
Saints fans invading Atlanta. That's going to be special. My final say pertains to the new math and how it's not needed to figure out what's wrong with the NFL today. And let me preface this by saying I know my take will make me sound like a stubborn, sour oldie, but goodie. But I miss the days of defense mattering in the NFL, because this season it hasn't, and the numbers don't lie. Through the first 11 weeks of play, NFL teams have scored a record 7,791 points and thrown a record 895 touchdowns. Both are on a record pace. And last night's Chiefs-Rams game made up part of that number with a combined 105 points scored. Yes, 3 defensive touchdowns were scored last night, and yes, the game was decided by a late Rams interception. But in the really big picture, the new NFL asks the question, can you stop us? And the Rams, Chiefs, and Saints are answering that with an emphatic no. No, you cannot. So, for the Saints to win this weekend, what has to happen on Thursday night?
Avoid the explosive plays, stay efficient on offense, and I think they got a chance to run away with a double-digit victory.
Right. Yeah, don't turn it over. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. It's a cliche, but this team is rolling right now. I think they can't wait to get back out in the dome.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Until then, for the gentleman beside me and Jeff, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And everyone at Fox 8, I'm Juan Kincaid. Thanks for watching. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Have a great night.
This has been Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.